Welcome back, dear friends, and those who have just joined us for morning prayer, welcome. Excuse me. There they are. Can't see without my glasses. And it's good morning to PM on our YouTube channel, and good morning to dear Kevin and to dear brother Andy. Welcome back. And to our dear sister Maggie. And welcome, dear brother Rogerio. Good to have you all with us. So we've two reflections for you this Tuesday morning. And good morning, Chip, who's joined us on Facebook. The first reflection is from the late Father Henry J.M. Mouven, from his book, You Are the Beloved. Daily Reflections for the Soul. And for the 26th of February, he guides us to one word, burnout. Burnout. Aren't you like me, hoping that some person, thing, or event will come along to give you that final feeling of inner well-being you desire? Don't you often hope, may this book, idea, course, trip, job, country, or relationship fulfill my deepest desire? But as long as you are waiting for that mysterious moment, you will go on running helter-skelter, always anxious and restless, always lustful and angry, never fully satisfied. You know that this is the compulsiveness that keeps us going and busy, but at the same time makes us wonder whether we are getting anywhere in the long run. This is the way to spiritual exhaustion and burnout. In reading those few words, I was reading about me. Because as a nurse manager many years ago in charge of a busy medical unit and a ward, I almost hit burnout through lack of staff, the pressures of responsibility. But on the spiritual path, I've supported many nuns and priests. When I had a retreat house in North Wales that I funded from my work as a senior nurse. And so many of them who had burnout, it could have been avoided by their superiors lightening their load. But they didn't. They allowed their community to burn out and then spend a small fortune at the Dimpness Centre in London. What a waste. But when it comes to you, the individual, what procedures can we put in place to prevent that? Well, the only procedure I can think of at this old age of 70 is common sense. I don't think I had it then, years ago, but I'm certainly acquiring it now in old age. We can prevent burnout if we take a deep breath and come into the presence of the Beloved and have a meaningful, truthful, heart-to-heart conversation and say, Lord, I'm stressed. And then ask, what would you recommend, Lord? It's so easy to say in your morning offering, Lord, here I am. Show me how I may serve you today. Well, the Lord doesn't ask you to burn out. He asks you to take care of the gifts that you've been given. He asks you to ensure that you've got the right framework in place, you've got boundaries, and that your spiritual path is rooted on a good, firm foundation, not rooted in emotionalism, but guided by common sense and what your heart is telling you to do. But so many of us ignore the heart because so many live in fear of what others will say about them. We had it in the monastery, not only in Cove, County Cork, where we were training as monks for 3 years. We had it in the Abbey in London. We had it in our acute hospital in Chicago when I was there nursing. In Northern Ireland, in the thick of all the troubles. In Manchester. We had brother monks who lived in fear of being criticized by their colleagues, their brother monks, of not pulling their weight. And some went to great excess. And when it came to Lent, heaven help us. Oh, the extremes of spirituality and ritual that they got into frightened many of us young monastics. Balance and harmony facilitate divine connectedness. But if we feel we're burning out, all we have to do is to come before the beloved and be truthful. Eat a bit of humble pie. Start beating your chest with the old Latin words, mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, through my fault, through my fault, through my own fault. But some individuals don't realize they're burning out. And it takes a friend to be able to speak to them in love. But so often they deny it. They've got to go through it to experience the devastation. And some, it takes many months to recover, as it did for many of the nuns and priests that came to us, and nurses from London to North Wales. It took a long time to recover. So the key is keep it simple. If something is too top heavy for you, ask for help. But then pride gets in the way. And one doesn't want to be seen as a weakling or vulnerable. Again, ego. So we pray to God and we ask for gentle reminders when we expose ourselves to unnecessary stress. Christ died on a cross, yes. He died to set us free, yes. But he didn't die on a cross to win our approval, did he? He did it out of love. And that's all he asks of you and me, especially those of us on the spiritual path. Live each day as if it were your last day, but live it in joy, not fear. And put aside what other people think of you. If they're not going to call you behind your back, they'll call someone else. That's human nature. As long as you're doing right by your heart and God, everything else is inconsequential. So just focus on your relationship with God. And if things get out of kilter, ask. Ask the Lord to give you the words, the wisdom, maybe to take time out. So that's burnout. Now, the second reflection, I've not read it. This is my first time reading it. Don't entertain wrong thoughts. So what does the author guide us to do? Well, he guides us to go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23. Guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. Well, let's read on. When Satan sets out to destroy you, he starts by planting wrong thoughts in your mind. Jesus illustrated this when he said, the laws of Moses illustrated this when he said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust in his eyes has already committed adultery in his heart. Wow. Before you surrender to sin in reality, you entertain it as fantasy. Evil thoughts aren't really yours until you allow them to move in and rearrange the furniture. Left unchecked to ramble through your mind, a thought can attach itself to an incident in your past or a proclivity in your present and feed on it until it's like a tumor growing inside you. Paul warns, take captive every thought, make it obedient to Christ, 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5. And Solomon writes, guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. Don't give wrong thoughts an inch, or they'll take a mile. How true. Evict them before they weaken your commitment to Christ and leave you in the place of regret. Generally speaking, when we clean a house, we focus on what others can see and inspect. Imagine how much mental rubbish we collect because we think nobody sits in our heads examining our thoughts, but God does. David said, Lord, you know all about me. Knowing that should lead you to pray. Let my words, the words of my mouth, and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord. So don't entertain wrong thoughts. We're human, we do. And today we're being bombarded by the media. It's years now since I went down to London and used the underground, but my memories remind me of some pretty horrific posters that would certainly lead you to sin. But again, it's common sense, isn't it? As a human being on a spiritual path, we do have thoughts that are always not of God. We're human. And we mustn't feel guilty for those thoughts. But certainly when we entertain them, and it leads us to do other things, that's when we really have to be on the ball. Many disbelieve in the named person called Satan or the Antichrist. Even devout Christians, they think it's folklore. They think it's childish. They think it's a fairy tale. Well, I can assure you, last year, the latter end of last year, I, with two of my colleagues, one in South Africa and one in America, the same time, the same day, each of us were attacked by Satan, the Antichrist. It was a horrific experience where I honestly thought I was choking to death. And Brother Rob could hear me screaming, "Lord, take me now." And he came in and he was horrified to see me struggling, and he couldn't understand what was going on. The doctor was called, my vital signs were good. There was no reason to have me admitted to hospital. Yes, I was extremely short of breath. My color had changed and I was totally exhausted. In fact, I spent 3 days in bed. I came under attack from the Antichrist, as did my two colleagues who were also members of the community. And even as a young monk in formation, I encountered the antics of the evil one, as many of us have. So I'm under no illusion that the Antichrist doesn't exist. He does exist. And he's only interested in those of us who've surrendered our heart to God. He's not interested in the lap dancers or the pole dancers, or those selling their wares on the street corner, or those who don't believe in God. They're putty in his hands. The ones he wants are those of us who've made a commitment to God, to give our life to God, as a lay person, a married person, or as someone in ministry such as myself. And we're seeing the evidence of the Antichrist as I speak in the Catholic Church, in the Anglican Church, in the Salvation Army, where you see so many cases coming to light of sexual abuse. The Antichrist is having a field day. And sadly, if one isn't prepared and equipped, grounded, and a person of deep prayer, and one who disciplines the eyes and the body, and who fasts, he doesn't get a sight, he doesn't get a look in, because he knows that our hearts belong to someone who offers hope and life, not despair. But the Antichrist is relentless. Relentless. He will never give her up. He will never give you up. And it's obvious when you think that light attracts dark, yin and yang, positive, negative. But we mustn't be frightened, for we have nothing to fear. And those are the words of Jesus. But we must be aware that when you're on this path, you do attract a lot of negative thoughts, negative mindsets. And sometimes your senses can be blown out of proportion. And always the Antichrist is there waiting for you to slip up. And he's got you. As he's revealed only in the news at 3 this morning of the Cardinal, the highest ranking official, the third highest ranking official in the Vatican. I've forgotten his name, but he denied ever being involved in sexual abuse. But it came to court and he was found guilty. And now he's waiting for a sentence to be imprisoned. You see, the Antichrist can get to any of us. And if he can get to a cardinal in the Catholic Church or a bishop in the Anglican Church, he can get to any of us. And that's why we do not take our eye off the ball. We discipline our senses. And if we do struggle, we call on the troops. We call on the great Michael the Archangel to protect us. We name, we bless, we release to God whatever it is that ails us. But it doesn't stop us having wrong thoughts. We're human. It's part of being human. The question is, what do we do with them? That's a personal choice. And I'm not here to sit in judgment on someone who chooses to give in to their thoughts. I'm here to offer support and prayer. And as the great St Augustine once said, there go I, but for the grace of God. And there were times in my spiritual path over the last 51 years where I have been weak and vulnerable. There have been times when I've fallen down many times and struggled to get up again. But if it hadn't been for my love of God and Christ's love for me, I wouldn't be sat here today. And it wasn't what I did, it was the love and the support that I was given in prayer. Never underestimate the power of prayer. Silent prayer. Being alone with your God, whoever your God is, and just being still. Being still. Let us pray quietly. Let us ask the one who is to come to each one of us here and offer us the reassurance that we need to guide us, protect us, and especially our thoughts. O Father, Mother God, we call on you now that your Son, the Beloved, will walk beside us, and that when we are at a low ebb, or when we're struggling or experiencing real temptation, that you will come to us, and that your presence will strengthen us, so that we do not lose heart in the battle against the evil one, but that in your name and through your most precious blood, that we can overcome anything, everything, by calling on the name of Christ. And in his precious name, command those evil thoughts, influences, or forces to depart. So let us now relax and allow the presence of the Good Shepherd shepherd us into a new mindset of I am a child of God. And no matter how far I fall, no matter the depths of despair that I've been in, no matter the mistakes that I've made, as I look up, there is the hand of one who loves me, who loves you, and it is the hand of Christ. We praise your name. We praise and glorify your name, O Lord, because you are the God who gives us the strength to be what you called us to be. Amen. So be it. Thank you, dear friends, for joining me on this Tuesday morning. I pray that the subject matter will have touched you in some way, and that there's been a stirring in your heart to reclaim who you are and not to allow fear destroy God's peace and blessings for your life today. Namaste, Shalom, Inshallah, Paxet Bonum, Om Shanti, Solo di Caritas, Salam Alaikum, and may the peace of the divine God be awakened in your mind, in your body, in your spirit, that you are never alone on this journey, that the beloved walks with you and will always protect you, always. That's his gift to us in his promise. So have a fabulous day. Till we meet again around this table of love. Take care. And thank you for being here. Oh, excuse me.